Hey everyone, Michael Crump here. I just noticed that right around 16 hours ago at the time of this recording, the brand new Orbis Toolbox for 9.00 has come out, at least in the beta form. So if you don't know what Orbis Toolbox is, it's basically a homebrew application that really makes it easy for developers and people that are creating homebrew in order to troubleshoot and debug their applications. Even though it is considered a tool for developers, I believe there's something that's inside of this that would be useful for each and every one of you. So if we go down through the project page, we can see there's this little overlay that you can add. It's got some useful information in there, such as like your IP address, and looks like you got system software and a few other pieces. And it says what firmware does this work with, and they haven't included it yet, but it does work with 9.00. Here's a couple of different pictures of the toolbox. So we're going to be primarily interested in Orbis toolbox settings. And yeah, that's about it. So head over to the releases on this page. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go into assets and we're going to select the 9.0 or 9.00 bin file. Now, if you scroll down, you can see we really haven't had a release since June the 8th of 2021. And again, this was another alpha build. So if we scroll back up, this is still another alpha build. They're both marked as pre-release. So I would at least say that the big benefit to going ahead and using this new payload is that it does have 9.00 support. So again, go ahead and download this file, and then instead of copying it to the USB, I'm going to use FTP. You can easily just put this on a USB stick and go with it from there, but I'm going to use FTP because I find it's a little bit quicker. So what we'll do is I'll go ahead and I will launch my FTP client, which is FileZilla. Again, it's a free application. I'm going to go to PS4, and this is the PS4 that's setting on my network here. Just make sure that your settings look just like this. I also have another video if you want to learn how to set up FTP. So I'm going to hit connect here. And we've been starting to put our payloads into a folder that's inside of data. And then it is simply called payloads. So if you take a look over here, you'll see we've got things such as like our FTP payload, which turns our PS4 into a FTP server. We've also got the ones in here. We've got our Linux loaders and more. Okay, so I'm just going to click over here on the Orbis toolbox, and I'm going to drag and drop that into my payloads. Okay, it does say that it has been successful. And if I scroll down in here, I will see Orbis Toolbox -900.bin. Okay, let's switch over to our PlayStation 4 and let's launch this and let's see what happens. I am going to go ahead and use that same homebrew application that I was using a little bit earlier, and it is just called Payload Guest. And so I'm using Payload Guest just simply because I find it quite easier than waiting for a host to update to the latest bin files. You can use absolutely whatever that you would like, but we'll use Payload Guest in this instance since I'm storing all those payloads in my /data/payloads folder. So let's go into Payloads Guest, and I'm going to scroll down a tiny bit here, and there it is, Orbis. So we're going to hit X, and there we go. We get our payload. And there we go. Orbis Toolbox Alpha 1.0 has been loaded. Okay, we see up at the very top, it does say that we have build 1190, and this is also December the 21st build. So excellent. We're on a brand new, fresh build of Orbis. So let's go to our settings. And now we have this wonderful Orbis toolbox. So let's go into Orbis toolbox. And we do have a couple of power options that this comes with. I think this is pretty nice because you can quickly reboot or shut down or suspend the system instead of, holding down the PlayStation logo button and then going into power here and adjusting it from this quick menu. There's also a package installer. This is a little bit irrelevant, especially now that Goldin has the package installer built in as well. So let's see. We've also got system settings. Okay, so this is for things such as turning on different codecs. For media, there's external hard drive, so you can mount or you can format that drive. And then there is Orbis Toolbox settings. Okay, so with Orbis Toolbox settings, this very first box here is the configuration file. Now, don't worry if you don't have the configuration file. I don't have one on mine. We're just going to simply build it right here together. So the first option we are going to put a check mark in is going to be this one, which is title IDs. So back over here, when you've got your different types of games, sometimes you need to know your title ID, especially when you may be trying to find updates for it, or just when you want to make sure you're using the right trainer for the game. So in this instance, I know that Sonic ends with 7032 just because of previous testing. So I'm going to go in here to settings, and we're going to go into Orbis, and we're going to go back into our toolbox settings. And now I'm going to put a check mark here, and the title ID labels now show up. So there you go. You can see 7023 is Sonic, and it also has all of the title IDs for the other games that I currently have on the system. Okay, so let's go back into settings. Let's go back into Orbis, and then Orbis Toolbox settings. Okay, and so this next option here, which is called the Show Dev Kit panel, this is going to pop up a panel that's going to show like our system information, like our IP address and so forth. So we're going to put a check mark on that. And for right now, I'm just going to go back to my main menu, and you should be able to see up in the top, it says what my system software is on, the release system, what hard drive space that I've got, as well as my local IP address. And it does list out your serial number as well as your model number. So this is an easy way to get that information without simply turning over your PlayStation 4 and looking for some of these numbers. So I'll go back to the settings, and we will uncheck that one because I don't want to have to blur this whole video. And the next one we're going to add is these two shortcuts. So these shortcuts are just going to make it a little bit easier to find different settings in your PlayStation. So we'll go to this one, which is Orbis Toolbox. So now instead of, as you've been watching me go through all of these menus, to get to it, I can simply access that right from the home menu. There is also appdata.home, which it does not look like these have been added yet. So maybe that's just because it's in the debug version. So let's go back into our settings and Orbis Toolbox, and we'll just leave this one on here for the shortcut. Debug overlay is one that is very important, especially when it comes to games. So let's go into game overlay, and we're going to leave this on the left. I'm just going to put a check mark on all of these, and then we're going to go back. And here is where we're going to go to the save settings. Okay, and so it does state that the file is saved to a config file from /data/Orbis Toolbox and then settings. We can find these settings by simply using PS4 Explorer, and it said go into the data folder, and there is the Orbis Toolbox, and then finally there is the settings.config. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's run a game, and I'm going to go ahead and just pick Sonic again, and this will show you a realistic CPU usage and thread count and RAM for an actual game that's running. Okay, so I just learned that Sonic doesn't take hardly anything to run on the PlayStation 4. It's just emulation of a very old game, right? Okay, so let's try something maybe a little bit more strenuous. Let's go to PT, which is the playable trailer for Silent Hills. Okay, so and if you play a game like Silent Hills, which is what I'm trying out here, you will see that the CPU temperature as well as the thread count and RAM does change the longer that you play it. And if I just went ahead and I decided to keep this game in this suspended state, well, then those numbers, especially for the temperature, should be climbing. Well, that's all that I've got for you today. I hope this walkthrough helped. Thank you so very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Michael out.